How can, like, wars and conflicts between countries and people, how do you see a solution to specific things like that?
Well, what we've noticed, and we've noticed it all, is that when a conflict that you are observing, whether you are personally involved in it or observing it from a distance, when you're in the middle of contemplating it, you are launching preferences. But most humans do not become a vibrational match to their preferences. They remain a vibrational match to the condition that caused the preference to be born. So when we talk about withdrawing your attention from conditions that make you feel uncomfortable, that makes people like you want to come forward and say, but how can we help if we are not aware of the problems? And we agree to that to this extent. Your attention to the problem is creating a global solution. Mass consciousness, with all of its involvement in war and all of its awareness of war, in all of its awareness of poverty and awareness of starvation and awareness of plagues, have launched rockets of desire collectively. But as individuals, you rarely become a vibrational match to what you've launched because you're so enamored with focusing upon what is. The conditions have got you hogtied to the degree that as humans, you spend almost all of your time focused on conditions and evaluating the rightness or the wrongness of them and the degree of goodness and badness of them, which is just such an utter easy first step. You ought to be way, way past that by now.
What if one side wants a solution and the other side doesn't want a solution?
Both sides want a solution. They just want different solutions. But the universe can deliver a solution to both. So this is the way it works. Let's say that it's just you and another guy. And you think this and he thinks that. And you want a solution and he wants a solution. And source, universe, law of attraction, whatever you want to call this universal energy, is aware of what both want because both have a vortex and the solution for both is in their vortex. When you need anybody else to understand it in order for you to feel good, you're in trouble. So what we're saying is, so let's say you're standing as an individual and you're watching the news of the world and you're seeing all these things that you don't want to be the case. And let's say that you're not even taking sides with who's right and who's wrong. You just see it as a big mess and a lot of people suffering, and you would like it to be different than that. You want different conditions. So you've launched all these rockets of desire and all these rockets of desire, but you, like almost everybody else, you don't even come close to being a vibrational match to what you've asked Source for, even though Source has the ability to yield it all to you. You don't even come close to it because you've got your eye so much on the condition. You're taking score so much. You're aware of it not working out. You hold yourself in vibrational accord with the problems. And so even though you and billions of others for generations longer than we can even speak about have created a vortex of well-being that is available to anyone who allows themselves to be a vibrational match to it. So you finally realize that you can't change those conditions. You can't even get the ear of the United Nations. You can't even get a senator of the United States of America to answer your letter. You can't even get a hearing in the White House. You can't even get anybody who has the ability to do anything. You can't find enough people with enough authority to be reasonable. You have to give it up. If your happiness depends upon somebody else being reasonable, you're in big trouble.
Right.
So, but you as an individual, we've been saying this for a long time, you have the ability to find happiness in the midst of all of that discord. And when you are someone who is willing to find happiness in the midst of all of that discord, then maybe others will follow suit. Maybe they won't, but you've done the only thing that you can do. You've found happiness in the midst of all of that discord, you see.
The Israeli-Palestinian condition going on right now, you hear about on the news every 5 minutes. Facebook.
So what's your question to us? How to solve it for yourself?
No, for myself. for myself, I'm okay, I'm happy.
Well, then mind your own business.
Okay.
Because that's not the way you're presenting yourself. You're saying, I'm happy unless I focus on what's going on over there over which I have no control.
No.
So if you have no control and your attention to it, are you saying that you can watch that and still be happy?
Yeah.
Then why are we talking about it? If you can watch that and still be happy, then you are seeing it through the eyes of Source and you are living unconditional love and there's no conversation, but that's not what's going on. You want them to solve their problem.
I like to see it happen, but
Why? But why do you need them to solve that problem? In order for you to be a catalyst in helping them, you'd have to understand it. They don't even understand it. Basically what they understand is you're someplace we don't want you to be and you need to leave. And they're saying, but we don't want to leave. Can't we all be here together? No, we don't want to be here together. We need you to go someplace else. We're not willing to share this space. This goodness is only goodness for us. You are not allowed to have this goodness. This is a piece of goodness that has been defined by God. Both sides are saying that. And we will not share our goodness with you. You must leave. Oh, you're not ever going to sort that out. In other words, as long as someone's decided that the goodness that is being offered by God is only offered to you and not you, that you're not ever going to sort that out. So you have to let them figure it out on their own. You have to let them figure it out. You have to let them figure it out until their alignment with Source trumps their need to push someone else away. That's what we meant earlier when we said you can't get sick enough to help sick people get well. And you cannot become stingy enough with the resources of well-being to allow the resources of well-being. In other words, it just will not be. You cannot get there from there, you see. So what happens is over time, and it takes time. It takes more time than it needs to. That's why we have these conversations with those like you who are willing to have these conversations, who are willing to shift just a little bit. When you are willing to say, my happiness doesn't depend upon my sisters being happy, then you've got a shot of helping the Israeli-Palestinian situation. But most people aren't even there yet, you see.
Do you see the masses, do you see that coming to an end, a conclusion, ever?
You've asked the ultimate conditioned question.
Because Abraham, do you see that?
Do we see differences of opinion being resolved? Are you asking about this specific situation or
Yeah, just to be
theoretically?
specific, yes.
Well, we're going to answer the question in a way that's going to annoy you.
That's
and
okay. That's okay.
And then we're going to answer it specifically.
Okay.
Did you hear us say that you come with variety for the privilege and joy of expansion, and that sameness does not produce expansion?
Okay.
So if you're asking, will humans ever be in complete agreement about everything, our answer to you is, if that were ever to happen, you would be done as creators, because no more expansion could occur. So then if you accept that expansion comes out of that kind of variety, but that it is possible in that variety to find joy, is it possible for those who are inhabiting this earth to finally accept that it's big enough for everyone? Yes, but first those inhabitants have to understand that the resources are coming from a vibration, not from a condition. You're not trucking in new resources from other places. They're not spaceships coming in and leaving seeds. In other words, this is the evolution of what's going on here. And so when you accept that the resources that you're reaching for are the resources of source energy, and that you can all individually tap into it and you all can live happily ever after, yes, of course, that is the potential. It's what everyone wants for everything. But the way to get there is not by pushing against the parts of it that you do not like. And that's why Do we see a world where you can live in joyous interaction with one another? All of the new little ones coming in feel exactly that way. They come pliable and eager and feeling possibilities.
Right.
And then often are trained into factions, and their emotions let them know that they're off their trail. So what these conversations are about helping you at whatever stage of life you're at to step back onto your path, to step back onto the path that you intended, to get hold of the trajectory of who you really are, to live happily ever after. The difference in our answer and your question is, yes, we can see a time when the inhabitants of this planet can be happy, but they will be unconditionally happy. We do not see a time when the inhabitants of this planet will agree about how the conditions should be. And that's the difference. If you need the conditions to be agreed upon, you're never going to get there because you can't sort that out. If you're able to feel good given the conditions that exist, then you're going to be all right, you see.
How do you feel unconditional love to someone who wants to kill you?
He said, how do you feel unconditional love towards someone who wants to kill you? By taking your attention away from the idea that they want to kill you. By taking your attention away from the idea that they want to kill you.
We're not talking about single people. We're talking about a mass, two different countries. We're not talking about one person, two people. That's easy. That's no sweat. We can do that. We're talking about millions of people. I understand.
How long have you been alive in this body?
53 years.
And how many people do you think would like to see you and those like you dead?
Me personally? I hope no one at the moment. Well, maybe there is.
Well, how many missiles are pointed at you? How many jihads are written in your? How many? In other words, there are all kinds of people who would like to see you dead.
Right. Okay.
But they don't have power like that. In other words, they don't have any control in your experience.
Right.
So it's an understanding of that. We're not saying that people aren't afraid, and we're not saying that people aren't putting up shields of defense, and we're not saying that people don't have what they believe is reason to be defensive. What we are saying is that anytime you feel defensive, you are creating a vibration that puts you in jeopardy. It's your very acceptance of your vulnerability that is the reason for things not going well for you, 100% of the time. Well-being is the energy that abounds. It's the only stream that is flowing. And people live to the degree that they pinch it off or allow it. But
so we should just not pay attention to it, think good thoughts, and be happy, and turn it off when it comes on the news, and not delete it from your.
If we were standing in your physical shoes, our desire to feel good would trump everything.
Right.
So that if we find ourselves uneasy when we are participating in any thought, word, or action, we would make a different decision about it until we had trained ourselves into a frequency that feels good to us. And then the result of that will be a response from the universe to you. And so when you find a vibrational improvement, you will live a vibrational improvement. In other words, that's the way you show that to yourself. And spend no time trying to convince someone who is on a hatred path. Yeah. Don't try to talk to them about it. They're not going to hear you. They will just see you as weak as you are looking for joy, you see. This is a really good time for a segment of reflection.